Man has always had a unique relationship with nature, a balance that was maintained by a necessary mutual respect between humans and apex predators. Tigers in particular have a history of killing humans, although these are fairly rare occurrences. There were many superstitions among the Siberian peoples, where shamanism is still commonly practiced among the various ethnic groups, such as the Koryak and Yukaghir peoples. All are well versed in living with nature, as most are farmers and animal herders, and they are especially aware of the dangers of the tigers, bears, and wolves that live among them. In our previous video some time ago, we focused upon the story of a Siberian or Amur tiger that raided 3 villages for 3 years, from 1923 to 1926. However, in December 1997, a new chapter was added to the history of these rare man-killers. Who was Vladimir Markov? How did he gain the interest of a tiger? What was the result of this encounter? Hello, I'm Colin Heaton, former history professor, Army and Marine Corps veteran, and welcome to this episode of Forgotten History. One day in December 1997, in the remote Primorye region of Russia's far eastern reaches of Siberia, a former logger, part-time poacher, and beekeeper named Vladimir Markov was hunting with a shotgun in the forest covered in deep snow. Markov had started a honey-making business after the timber industry had ended, and he began poaching for food with homemade shells and unregistered guns, using game to barter for essentials like sugar. Given the fact that after the fall of the Soviet Union, the profitable and steady work of harvesting timber for the logging industry had pretty much died out. Those who lost their jobs had to farm or raise animals, and a few even resorted to poaching. Vladimir Markov was unable to legally hunt because the laws had changed. Under the new government rules, people were highly restricted in buying and owning firearms. The required licenses allowed only government-approved guns to be used, and they were cost prohibitive for most people, and it was intended to be that way. The government wanted a disarmed population, with exception to those working for the government, and like many people, Markov maintained old weapons. Markov, like most of the people around him, simply subsisted as best he could by killing what he needed to eat or could sell on the black market, and he made his own homemade ammunition. After an uneventful day of hunting, he was apparently on his way home when he came across a dead wild boar, obviously a fresh kill by a predator which to him must have been seen as a gift. Markov took advantage of this great gift, as both he and his dog Laika were near starvation and needed to eat. He removed large portions of the boar and was packing it into his backpack when a tiger appeared, apparently returning to its kill. Seeing the threat, Markov raised his shotgun and fired a couple of shots, wounding the tiger that ran off into the deep forest. Markov believed that he had scared the animal away, and he returned home with the frozen meat. Markov must have believed that he had mortally wounded the tiger, in which case he could go back later and collect the animal. The pelt, various organs, and even the bones were worth a lot of money on the black market. But Vladimir Markov had an even greater problem. The tiger did not die. In fact, it was not even seriously wounded enough to remain stationary and wait to heal, let alone die. Markov himself still had a few hours to make it back to his house, where he would no doubt prepare the meat for his meal with Laika. But things would not be that simple, because the tiger recovered enough to collect the scent of the human that wounded it and stole its kill. It would also have imprinted on Markov having seen him. Apparently, following Markov's scent and following the original trail that he had taken from his home on his day of hunting, and with Markov going back a different way, the two did not cross paths, but the tiger nonetheless arrived at Markov's house, a small shack, long before he did. The tiger had apparently taken the attack and theft of its food rather personally, and it attacked everything with Markov's scent. The tiger chewed his tools, especially an axe handle, and broke into his home, totally destroying anything with his scent on it. Then it apparently destroyed his bed and dragged his old mattress outside. From the post-incident investigation, it would seem that the tiger had laid upon the mattress, waiting for Markov to return. The animal was not about to let the matter go, and in a human-like method, it had embarked on a mission of revenge. However, a few hours later, as the story goes, and after Markov did not return, the tiger apparently left, and when Markov arrived with his dog, he saw the destruction and knew what had happened. Fearful of staying in the home that night, he went to a neighbor's house a couple of miles away asking for refuge. He told a friend what had happened, and this friend, apparently being fearful, himself would not allow Markov and his dog to stay, so Markov left to go see another friend farther down the trail. According to some of the sources, Markov stayed with the second friend that night and then left the next morning, and as he headed back to his home, thinking that perhaps the threat was over, he stopped by the previous neighbor's home. It would seem that this neighbor he first visited was also paid a visit, as some tracks were visible in the snow around the property, but those tracks led away from the direction of Markov's house. It would seem that the tiger had tracked them there. Markov and his dog then set out for home. What Markov did not know, but probably suspected, was that the tiger may return to his house, but he probably believed that he was prepared and had loaded his shotgun. Markov would have been correct in his assumption. It had been almost a full day since he had arrived home and seen the damage done by the tiger, but the animal had not forgotten. The tiger had in fact returned to the house, and it had tracked Markov for up to 2 days after the shooting, finally returning to his home. From what was pieced together by the investigation led by Yuri Trush, when Markov arrived near his property, he never had the opportunity to enter the house. It seemed that the tiger had been inside, perhaps out of sight near the doorway entrance, watching, and it saw Markov and his dog Laika coming home. The evidence on the ground suggested that the tiger had erupted from the doorway and quickly killed the dog Laika, and then attacked Markov before he could get off a shot. Following the evidence, the tiger dragged him behind the small house and simply tore him apart. Later, when the scene was discovered, they found what remained of Markov's disemboweled body, and all that remained of Markov were stumps of bone sticking out of his boots, a bloodied shirt with an arm still inside, a severed hand, a faceless head, and a gnawed femur. According to author John Valent, the eating may have been secondary. I think he killed him because he had a bone to pick. But the tiger was not finished, and probably because of the wounds it received from Markov, could not hunt its traditional prey, such as deer and boar, which explained the next attack upon a former soldier named Andrei Pochinknya. Armed with a rusty bolt-action rifle, he stood no chance against the tiger. It would appear that the young man never had a chance to fire his weapon as self-defense either. When he was found, all that remained were blood-soaked clothing, his watch, crucifix, and a pair of abandoned boots were the only items remaining of him after he visited the forest for a hunting trip just days later. It would appear that unlike in the Markov incident, the tiger did not drag Pochipnya away from the scene and feed on him in a more isolated location. The tiger just fed upon him at the site of the kill, which for tigers is rather unusual. To avoid other predators coming to the kill site and possibly challenging a tiger for the carcass, they tend to drag their kill to a more isolated location, usually a place that they are familiar with, such as their lair. The tiger then stalked a nearby settlement, its tracks observed by the locals, with some claiming to have even seen it. This was rather unsettling, especially after both Markov and Pochipnya were discovered, and the result among the locals was understandable panic. As a result, the Russian authorities organized a hunt to kill the tiger, now a proven man-eater, and obviously very dangerous. The lead investigator, Yuri Trush, who organized the hunt himself, barely survived an attack by the tiger when the group of hunters found it, and luckily for Trush, they managed to kill the animal before it could kill him. The male Siberian tiger they killed measured over 9 feet long and weighed around 500 pounds, slightly below average in size, as most adult males weigh in at around 600 pounds, but some have been known to weigh as much as 700 pounds or more. They are the largest of all felines, much heavier than Bengal tigers and larger than lions. Then, following a field autopsy, it was concluded that the dead tiger had been wounded from buckshot by Markov, and it had in fact eaten both men. Tiger attacks in Siberia are quite rare, but it can be assumed that, due to the vast expanses of territory and the distances between towns and villages, let alone neighbors, many attacks may occur that are never reported. The incident of a tiger or any predator stalking a human out of revenge is extremely rare, although it has occurred. In my brief interview with Dr. Victor Heaton of the Gavorone Biological Research Center, the world's foremost authority on Siberian tigers, I asked about this behavior as I was writing my book on the 1923 to 1926 events. According to Dr. Heaton, it is not improbable that an intelligent animal, especially a tiger, will imprint and identify that which it loves and that which it hates. This is especially true if a wrong is done to it, and that makes it a very dangerous animal, almost human. Unlike the documented cases of Bengal tigers, there has never been a recorded incident, at least in recent memory, of a Siberian tiger hunting down a single human being to take its revenge, although this is not to say that it has not happened. This was an extremely rare event, entirely caused by human actions. If the tiger hadn't been shot, there probably wouldn't even be a story to tell, and Markov would probably have been killed the day he encountered the tiger. Thank you for watching this episode of Forgotten History. If you liked what you saw, please click like, share, and subscribe. And if you would like to assist with the ever-increasing cost of production, please consider becoming a channel member and joining our Patreon page. Please check out our merchandise store. And thanks for watching.